Scottie Pippen's upset. Scottie Pippen is mad. That is my intro for this segment. Scottie Pippen is releasing a new memoir, Unguarded, and in it, Pippen goes in on MJ, his former teammate, the GOAT, and in particular criticizes MJ's performance in the documentary The Last Dance. Quote, "I was nothing more than a prop. His best teammate of all time, he called me. He couldn't have been more condescending if he tried." Another quote, this in reference to Scottie and his Bulls teammates, the way they were perceived in the doc. Quote, "How dare Michael treat us that way after everything we did for him and his precious brand." Renee? Ooh. We know that, listen, relationships, sports is a relationships game. But what do you think about what Scottie has to say?
I'm gonna tell you right now, it's getting spicy over there, okay? That's spicy, but it's like, I always wonder this is a side note, but this is how my mind works. I always wonder what it would look like if that era had social media.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't care. You know, like, politically correct is not a thing for them. And so when I see all this stuff, I'm like, because everyone's asking the question, well, why are you saying it now, Scottie Pippen? That's kind of how this, like, people are coming at Scottie like, well, if you felt that way, why are you saying it now? They didn't really have social media back then. And so they're not getting interviewed about this kind of stuff. Like right now, with social media and the way media is just set up in general, there's 100,000 podcasts for any athlete to hop on to say how they feel about any situation. That was not always the case. So people have to remember that he's getting some stuff off his chest right now. Like Scottie Pippen, it seemed like he had some stuff that had been bothering him that he's unguarded. You know, like he wanted to get it off his chest. He's like, well, since everybody's telling their story, I'm going to tell mine. Now, do I think that he's right or wrong? That's not really my place to determine. But I think that I saw a lot of people going at Scottie Pippen and, you know, like they turned him into that and I took that personally meme and I get it, get the jokes off. But, you know, at the end of the day, I wonder if there was a time where Scottie like had a chance to say that. I mean, we all know from the documentary that Scottie Pippen should be mad about a lot. He had the worst contracts ever.
Worst contract in the league at the time. And there was nothing that could be done. Like he was vastly underpaid and obviously a huge part of their success. The thing that I keep thinking about is, I think you're absolutely right. There were not the avenues for Scottie to express himself. Certainly in the 90s, what is he going to do? Write a book in the 90s that like, what about me? That was, no one was hearing that. No one was going to listen to that. Second of all, and this is not a knock on sports media or Michael Jordan or anything, but there were a lot of sports media personalities who got the come up because they positioned themselves in a way to cover the ascendancy and the domination that was Michael Jordan, right? So their careers are inextricable with the success of Michael Jordan. And that's just a part of the landscape of sports right now. There are a lot of people whose legacies are all tied up in Michael Jordan's legacy as well. So there just was not the space for Scottie to do that.
For sure.
And the other thing I think about a lot is like, you know, imagine that your name, Pippen, Scottie Pippen, your name becomes synonymous across the globe with Sidekick. You are the Robin.
That's tough.
I mean,
tough.
that would wear on you. That would wear on you. And I think that, you know, credit is sharing credit, the ability to apportion credit. It's important in any kind of collaborative work, creative work, business work, IP, whatever it is, you know, like a group project at school.
For sure.
The person who does the most work always feels a type of way about it. And it's always, it's financial, it's emotional. There's so many things at stake. And the person who gets the most credit often gets the most money. So there's that too. And you think about the way credit has broken up musical groups, writing partners. Yeah. It's the same thing here. And clearly these are topics that Scottie has been holding close to his chest for a long time. Clearly he feels like he hasn't had a place to talk about this stuff. And I think with The Last Dance coming out, it's clear that he is It's all coming out at once, and it's not going to come out, often with emotional outbursts such as this. It's not going to come out in a clean and ordered way. It's going to be messy. It's going to be emotional.
Messy.
It's going to touch on a lot of topics, but it is clearly something that Scottie sincerely feels.
I mean, but Jason, you hit on something interesting, because even let's just take Scottie Pippen out of the equation. There's been a big discussion about how old school NBA feels about new school NBA, and how in the reverse, in a sense of the old school NBA doesn't feel like the new school media or players maybe don't give them enough respect that they feel that they've earned. So you got to always remember that as a baseline, an undercurrent as well. And so then when you have Scottie Pippen, who not only was he an OG and part of the old school, but he's the Batman, like you said. I mean, he's the Robin, like you said, of the old school. Well, some of the Batmans of old school didn't even feel like they're getting enough love. Yeah. So imagine a guy that was deemed like the Robin of the NBA, what it means to have a sidekick, what it means to be that player that's not the star, but really a star in your own right. Like even Klay Thompson is an example. He was really upset that he got left off of the NBA 75. And a lot of people, if you look at his stats and some stats to the other people there, you can make an argument that he should have been on the list. But is that stigma of being the Robin to Steph Curry's Batman, are people going to put a Robin on the list? I mean, just mentally wise, are you going to add Steph and Klay knowing that Steph is Batman and Klay is the Robin? So there's that triggering thing that he probably been dealing with this for a long time, and he's getting this off his chest now with Unguardable.
Absolutely. And it's so, the thing about is it's so hard. Obviously in sports, there are statistics. You can look at wins and losses. You can look at points per game. You can look at all these, field goal percentage, all this stuff. Field goal percentage when a player was on the court with you, when they were off the court. At the same time, you can't put a number on the impact that Scottie Pippen guarding the other team's best offensive player, late in games for seasons, how that extended Jordan's career, how that allowed him to have energy down the stretch. There's so many parts of this relationship that are impossible to unwind, and that I could, listen, if I was in Scottie's shoes, I could see being like, why don't nobody gives me credit for that. Nobody says, yeah, Jordan was able to do that, to make that incredible shot, hang in the air and hit that shot, because I took his defensive assignment in the second half and just chased whoever, Magic Johnson, all around the court so that he could do that. Nobody's talking like that.
Nobody's talking like that. And if you look at how everything played out, so we already talked about he had one of the worst contracts in the NBA at that time. So then you see how everything plays out. I don't know what his financial situation is, and I'm not saying he's broke, but I'm just saying, imagine not getting the respect, not having the money after the career because you were in bad contracts, and just feeling like you didn't get your fair shake at it, or you didn't get the respect you needed, you didn't get the money you deserved, you didn't get, in his mind, he might think he didn't get anything to show his work for what he's done.
I think that's such a good point, because listen, we're comparing him to Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan is a one of one in terms of what he was able to accomplish on the court, and then take that success and turn into off the court success business-wise, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
Scottie Pippen and most professional athletes, if they miss out on a contract, if they miss out on $5 million, $12 million, whatever it is, that money is not coming back on the other end. That's gone. That money is just money that you didn't make. And your career at 30, 34, I mean, that's another thing that, people need to realize. When most people are just starting in their professional careers, if you're a professional athlete, you're done. That's it. You're finished now.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I get, I'm not saying we have to agree with everything Scottie says, but I get where he's coming from.
And we're not defending Scottie Pippen, because I always want to say, we know Scottie has done some things in his past that are not the best, but we're talking sheerly hoops, because I know there's always going to be people that are like, well, Scottie Pippen has done X, Y, Z. We're talking strictly hoops, strictly the numbers with that. I think that if you were Robin your whole entire life,
whole career, Robin,
your whole career, you've been Robin in your NBA career, and You've been successful and you've propelled your team to do great things, win multiple championships. You played alongside one of the greatest NBA players of all time. You might feel some type of way as if you're sitting here watching how everything's unfolding and you're like, well, that didn't work out well.
I put it this way, you hear people say a lot that, that's the main character. You see that on social media. That person's... If I'm Scottie Pippen, I'm sitting here looking at the world, at a sports landscape, certainly, that I had a big role in shaping. And I'm thinking, man, I can't even be the main character of my own story. They make documentaries where they talk about me as like I'm not even that important. And I'm not saying that's truly the case, but like I could see feeling that way, looking out and just being like, man, I don't even get to be the hero of my own story. It's always Michael.
Make you feel some type of way. Okay.